everyone, I'm Linda Cooper and welcome to the new 100 Longevity Campaign. I'm so excited for today's show. I've always been a huge fan of blue zones and I have been studying them for years. And our guest today is one of the original founders who actually coined the phrase blue zone to begin with. He is Dr. Michel Poulain. And I have to say that typically when we do these interviews, I have a preliminary call with the experts and give them a little what to expect and go over the talking points. But that was not the case with Dr. Poulain because he is coming out of a extended vacation. He lives in Belgium. We're on a 7-hour difference time zone. So he said, let's just go ahead and schedule it. And the reason why I'm prefacing this is I'm a little concerned only because he is such an incredible expert on the subject matter. And I hope that he is open to hearing a theory that I have that actually, it came up in a past episode with Dr. Bill Andrews. I hadn't planned on speaking about it, but Bill was like, aren't we gonna talk about your blue zones theory? And it came out, and long story short is he was very impressed, as I've also shared with a couple other experts who also expressed, great interest, and my theory has not been documented. So I'm definitely excited to hear what research is still ongoing, because it's a continual ongoing study on these blue zones and to find the similarities. And his work originated in Sardinia, the original blue zone region where centenarians live, and then it was expanded to 5 territories: Okinawa, Japan, Icaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and of course, Sardinia. And so I'm so excited to welcome him. So let's get started. Hi, Michel, how are you today? It's so great having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, no problem.
Yes, well, I know that we have a 7-hour difference time zone change, so you're in the evening and I'm in the afternoon, so I know that it worked out well for us. But I was sharing with the audience that I am a big fan and have been following your research on blue zones for many years, you and your colleagues, and
Okay.
I'm thrilled to have you on the show. And I know this is an ongoing research that you and your colleagues are still doing to this day. So first, share with us how the blue zones and centenarian study began. And I know it started in Sardinia, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the story is quite simple. There was a meeting in France in 1999, so it's already more than 20 years ago. And at that meeting, a medical doctor from Sardinia presented a paper, a contribution, telling that in the mountain of Sardinia, there is a lot of old people and men are really living as long as women. So when you have some statement by a non-demographer, all the demographer in the audience are very skeptical. They say, oh, this is due to error in the date of birth. This is the validity of the document are not existing. Yeah. So I remember well, at the coffee break, we were discussing a lot. And the conclusion of the discussion in the coffee break is that we have to go and check. Yeah. We have to go. We as demographer, we don't believe until we have done a validation, because you have to know that in all the problem of longevity, the validation of age is crucial. So many people around the world tell that they are 120, 125, 130, and it's not true. Right. So validation is crucial.
With the audience, why it's so important that it was like a red flag for you, because women are known to live much longer than men.
Yes, that's the problem. That's usually in our country, you have among centenarians, you have 5 or 6 times more women than men. And so if in one part of the world, there is the same number of men and women among centenarians, it may be because men exaggerate their age, and that their age is not true. The validation of age is crucial.
Yes.
And this is a very specific work. It is being done usually by historical demographer, which means demographer that has some experience with all the documents. So the coffee break, there was not a lot of candidate to go and do the work. In fact, there was my friend from the Quebec, Bertrand, but Bertrand was not so happy to come to Sardinia. And as I was planning to go to Bari, another place of Italy, in January, I say I will continue to Sardinia. So I arrived 20th of January 2000 in Sardinia, and we were invited directly to a meeting in Arzana where there were 4 centenarians that were celebrated. Wow. So 4 centenarians in a village of 3,000 inhabitants. I say, wow, this is problematic.
You're lying.
No, this is problematic because shall I go and shake their hand? Right. And to say congratulations, and today after,
where's your proof?
And today after I will say you are not true. You are not true, centenarian. So what I did, I run really to the municipality, at least to check that documents exist. And I was satisfied. I was satisfied to see that my colleagues told me, you will not see any document. This is really difficult. It's a remote area. There is no document. It's the end of the world. Finally, it was not so the end of the world. There were some documents, and we started to do village by village the validation. In total, with my colleagues, the one that presented the paper in Montpellier, we visited, we validated 40 centenarians, which means from
one region in the mountain.
Yeah, in the area, in the mountain where they were supposed to be in large number, okay? And no one was with error, which means it was fully true. At that time, my conclusion should be, yes, my friend was correct. This is an area where men live as long as women, and it should be the end point of the story. But then I say to my friend, this is not the start, the end point. This is the starting point.
Yes.
So look, if I put on the map all the village where they are centenarian that we have validated, they are in a cluster in the mountain. And I did it with a blue pencil. So
and
I used
blue stones came in.
I used the blue pencil.
You did a red pen.
Right. So that's the problem, is that I use, because I like blue. And I say, we discussed from that day, the blue zone. So we try to shape this area where people are living longer. So this is a big difference. At the beginning, it was just to validate case by case, but then it started to be not individual longevity, but population longevity, which means a group of people where you have a higher probability to reach 100.
Yes.
And just to give you an example of the numbers, in Villa Grande, that is the top of the cake, the cherry on the top of the cake, in Villa Grande, there are today 3,000 inhabitants. They are, from year to year, between 2 and 6 centenarians alive.
Wow.
But in total, we found in Villa Grande 47 centenarians.
It's amazing.
And 24 women and 23 men. That's unique. This is something you never find everywhere in the world. The same number as male and female centenarian. I have only a second village, Seulo, where you have exactly the same, but it's a smaller village with 800 inhabitants, but we found there 22 centenarians.
So let me ask you, I saw the blue zones gradient map, and it's like it goes, there's a central area where it's dark blue, and then the gradient color continues to go further and further out. So how did you determine the gradient colors and what classified those?
Yeah, in fact, to identify this area, we use a smoothing method, a special smoothing method. And that's the way we identify the blue zone. So every point that is in the blue zone is surrounded by area with high number of centenaria. But if you go a bit far, it's not in the blue zone. In fact, Sardinia as a rule is not a blue zone. It's only in the mountain area and a group of 14 villages that we identify with higher proportion of centenaria.
So your research is still ongoing to this day, correct?
Exactly, exactly. Because we would like to know if the phenomenon is a permanent one or is it a transitional one. But our conclusion in Sardinia is that if some centenarians disappear, you have new one arriving all the time. So up to now, we don't see the level decreasing. This is something we would like to do in Sardinia. And the other one of the ongoing research is to find elsewhere in the world place where people are living longer on the same, I would say, at the same level. But this is quite difficult to compare.
Okay, so before I touch on what I was going to share with you, because I have a theory that I'd like to share with you, but before we do,
you have a theory. That's good. That's good. I like theory.
Oh, okay. I'm so happy that you're open to it because I value your opinion so much, and I am featuring on the show many longevity experts, one of which Dr. Bill Andrews. I've had conversations off camera with him, and I also featured him on episode 2 for his telomerase expertise and research on reversing the aging process. And so during one of our conversations, I shared with him my blue zones theory, and he was astounded. And he said that he wanted to investigate this because he hadn't heard of it before, hasn't been documented. And I just want to share this with you because
I'm ready. I'm ready to hear a new theory.
Okay,
please.
So I know that because as I said, I'm a big fan of the research, and I have been looking at all of the variables of the research. I know that your scientists and researchers have taken blood samples and seen genetic patterns and similarities. And so here's my theory. I like to look at the big picture of things. It's kind of a gift that I have had. And I saw a common denominator with Sardinia, of course, but Okinawa, the Nicoya Peninsula, the Icaria, Greece. So all of them have the same one, okay? So each and every one of these regions where centenarians live all reside within a geothermal natural resource in their immediate living environment. So I feel, of course, I love hot springs. I've gone to many, and everyone knows how beneficial they are, and the benefits are huge, all of the different minerals. My theory is if you are eating the food and drinking the water that has been affected by these heat shock proteins within those substances, and the animals are eating it and drinking it too, they're consuming. I felt that there was something to it that might have triggered this benefit, and could explain why it's carried through generation, because of being in that natural environment. What do you think?
Okay, in fact, what we try to compare the characteristic of the different blue zones. First of all, you cannot put in the system Loma Linda because, as I say, Loma Linda is not a blue zone; it's a blue population.
Right, okay. Because of the way they are with the Adventists.
Yes. We have the same. We have the same in our country with some religious group. So this is fully different. It cannot be linked with the environment in Loma Linda, because
and I agree with that. That's why I didn't mention it. I listed all of them, but then I also used that same mindset to see if it kind of, because not all of the regions that have been researched on where centenarians live are stamped a blue zone. Some of them are just, this is, you know, various areas where scientists have found it and they decide to go ahead and research that. Every one of those regions also are in a geothermal natural resource. And it's also could be a volcano, like the dirt, the soil has been affected by volcano elements. And your location in the mountains in Sardinia was the perfect storm because it has everything. It's got the high elevation, it's got the geothermal resources. And actually, I have a map. There's 3 around Neuro of the geothermal area. What do you think?
Okay, I will agree with you for Icaria, because in Icaria you have some radioactivity. That's clear. It has been demonstrated, this radioactivity. In Sardinia, what is good is that the soil is from granite, and from granite it's also different in terms of composition. The only problem is that I did not find for Okinawa and for Costa Rica. So it's one of our hypotheses that the radioactivity or the nature of the soil may be one possibility. It has an impact on the water. That's clear. If the water, for example, in Villa Grande, they go and pick the water from the spring directly, and they go with a lot of bottle there, and they never buy water in the shop. They go to the spring. In Icaria, there is also a lot of water like this that is considered to be good. But up to now, we don't have any evidence, because so many factors that may say that my feeling is that there is a base for genetics, but genetics links with environment. This is what we name epigenetics. Epigenetics is, for me, the way to approach the problem. But up to now, we are not far in the discovery to know what kind of trait, epigenetic trait, is typical from these populations. And I have done, as I do everywhere, first thing I do, I go to visit the cemetery.
Oh,
and
so why do you do that first? Like see,
yeah, and then when you look the cemetery, you have all the date, and you can directly feel if they are centenarian or not. If you go in Villa Grande, in the cemetery, you will find 30 graves of centenarian easily.
What were the traits that you did find in Villa Grande with the centenarian population? What were their common factors?
Well, up to now, as I say, it's still ongoing research, and epigenetics is on the way. But the big problem for research is that we need money to go ahead with these analyses.
I tell you, this is a common theme. Everyone is doing the same thing.
So I hope that you will collect some money from me to go ahead with the project, because I think that I'm convinced that there is something linking genetics with human environment.
Yes.
But to prove it, you need to have enough blood sample, and you need to do some analysis.
You might need to put your lights on. Can we adjust your lights? It just seems so crazy to me that there's all of this incredible scientific data and research that you all are sitting on, that you're just waiting to put into action, and you need the funds to do so.
I would say that the problem is to convince the international community, scientific community, that it is really worth to work on small area like Blue Zone. Because usually they do big survey, picking centenarian everywhere in the country, and comparing with non-centenarian. But they don't consider all people in an area that is long living. It's a different perspective.
Right.
You see, I take an example. There was a lot of survey on Centenaria in the US, you have in Georgia survey, you have New England survey, you have Iowa, you have several ones. But what you do in this survey, you go and visit all centenarian, okay, from place to place, but you don't consider the population as a whole.
Right.
You don't consider, as I do, that in one place, there will be a higher probability to reach 100.
Yes.
In one given population, and you want to know why. That's our topic. Why?
I have to say is I cross-referenced all of the regions where centenarian clusters reside and cross-reference their geothermal, if there was a geothermal resource, a hot spring or a volcano or something that had those minerals and, you know, incredible resources, rich soil. And they all do, including, I mean, of course, I actually haven't looked at Georgia. You'll have to give me the exact location because they have, you can be able to cross-reference it through a global and also just for the United States to see where all of the geothermal resources are. But what shocked me is that I didn't see any data or documentation pointing to that, and I felt that because there were so many similarities that it would have been stated somewhere, and I felt that maybe everyone was just looking to their own area of expertise and not seeing that. And so what are your thoughts on that?
In fact, if you have this hypothesis and you found that in different places of the blue zone you have this geothermal influence, but then you have to prove why in another place where you have this geothermal, but there is no longevity. Okay? So it means that you have the two sides of the coin. On one side, if there is geothermal characteristic positive, you have longevity. But what happens if you have this geothermal characteristic and no longevity? Because you should have, I take another simple example. You say that olive oil is the responsible for longevity, which means that all the country around the Mediterranean should live longer. What is not true?
Yeah.
You will say, for example, that fish is the key, or that not eating meat is the key, but you have to prove that in other places with the same characteristic, there is also longevity. What is not true?
Well, okay, I see it's a perfect storm because there's a region when we were visiting Ecuador, our taxi driver took us from like our hotel to the airport, and he was saying that there is a region in the mountains, they have a valley where everyone lives past 100 and it's a well-known place. But what I found very interesting is, and what I find is it's almost a perfect storm. So the high mountainous range, and also there's a higher elevation, and then there's something to do with being in a valley.
You are probably talking about Vilcabamba, because
yes, that's it.
Yeah, but Vilcabamba has been proved already 40 years ago that people exaggerate their age, because when this researcher, it was a doctor from the US, went back there, suddenly he discovered that some people were 10 years older. So finally, he recognized himself that the number of centenarian and oldest old in Vilcabamba was not high. It was not high. So it is very well advertised, but everybody among the scientists will tell you, okay, Vilcabamba, forget it, because I wanted to go there.
I wanted to go there, but it was too late. We were on the way to the airport.
I was ready to go there after Costa Rica, but I collected all the data. I work on this, and I did not find a place that could be a blue zone. That's why I decided to go to Greece and to Icaria. But in between Costa Rica and Icaria, my objective was to go to Ecuador. But finally,
Okinawa is another location. We were in Japan last year visiting, and we went to a traditional ryokan, which actually Japan is littered with, I mean, tons of hot springs.
Why Okinawa was on the top and not anymore? Do you know that Okinawa is not anymore on the top?
I didn't
No,
know.
no.
Tell us why.
It has because of the influence of the U.S. You have to know that the U.S. occupy Okinawa in 47, which means they introduced the food from the U.S. They introduced a lot of way of living from the U.S. So all the people that were born before live longer, but those who were born after 47 have some problem of health. So now you can see directly in the line that the longevity in Okinawa is going down. And other places of Japan are doing better now. Nagano, for example, not far from Tokyo in the mountain, maybe they have some hot spring. I like hot spring. Do you know that I like to go and to see the geyser everywhere on earth? And I have been in Iceland. I have been in the Yellowstone. I have been in a lot of places because this is for me very, very attractive. And I know that there is still a place I have to go and see because there is also some geyser there. I want to go to New Zealand for that. But
Oh, New Zealand. That's
I
another place. They actually have the most incredible healing waters in New Zealand and
yeah.
all of these natural pools. And guess what? In Rotorua, New Zealand, they have a huge centenarian population. I don't know. I think there's just something to it for you to look into.
Okay. No, no. I am open to any explanation. I am really open because I don't have myself a unique explanation. I have just multiple factors. And if you put in evidence one factor, I will tell you, okay, but how is it so that in Iceland, where they have a lot of offspring, they don't have longevity? Okay?
They don't have longevity because I believe that it's freezing temperatures there that might deter that from as I said, I think it's a perfect storm. So it's a multitude of things. It can't just be a geothermal natural resource. It also has to have other attributing factors.
Exactly. So you are right to say that the explanation is at the crossroad of a lot of factors, including nutrition, including physical exercise, including support of the society, support of the family, of social environment, including genetics, including offspring, if you want, and so on and so on. So we are not yet at the end of the explanation. Up to now, you have to put this factor with the other one, the other one, the other one, the other one, and up to now we don't know. But if we succeed to prove it, you will get probably a promotion for the Nobel Prize.
Okay. You'll give me some credit. But I want to ask you, because I did see that all of the regions are in competition with each other to see who has the most longevity. So who is at the top of the list right now?
I don't like competition, but as scientist, I should be able to do a comparative exercise, compare the level of longevity. And my conclusion is that for women, if you want to live longer, you go to Okinawa, and for men, you go to Sardinia.
But okay, so please explain what those findings mean.
It means that we have not yet explained why men in Sardinia live so long. In fact, they live as long as women. Why? If you go to Okinawa, you have 10 female centenarian for one male. And to find why men and not women. And if you show me some explanation that does not favor men, forget it. Forget it. So hot spring, okay. Why? Because men go to hot spring and women does not go to hot spring. Okay, then I will agree. Okay. You see, you have to find explanation that favor men in a way fully differently compared to what exists, what is seen, for example, in France, in the US, where you have 6 female centenarian for one male.
Okay, so let me ask you this. In Villa Grande in Sardinia, what are the habits of men and how do they differ, if any difference, from other regions? Are they?
Ah, yes, there are some difference. Do you know? We will laugh a bit. Wait, men were outside of the household most of the year because they were shepherds and they went to the mountain during the summer and to the plain during the winter. And they come back at home only 1 week in May and 1 week in November, which means that oh,
That
this is
explains it right there. Ding, ding, ding. If you think
this is the
about
best
it.
this is the best solution to throw away to be far from women in the mountain running with animals having very good milk and so on, and they just come back in May to do some baby and the same in November, and you can see directly that the baby come 9 months later.
Okay, so let me just share with you what my interpretation is, because from a male standpoint, of course, you're gonna definitely say, oh, well, it's all the nagging and the harassment and the stress that a woman could bring upon her husband, and avoiding all of that could be a huge benefit. That's where you're going with this. But my mindset is thinking, okay, it even the playing field, because where's the geothermal natural resource? It's in the immediate environment. If you are one with nature and drinking the water, eating the food, and taking advantage of all that is in your surroundings that benefit you. Because think about it, if you are...
Yes, I know that in fact men has a different food compared to women. They have a different water, they have a lot of things that are different. But then we have to prove that everywhere on earth where you have shepherd, they will live longer. What is not true. Okay?
Okay, so when you said that they're separate, you said that that is actually a rare occurrence. Like, I have never actually heard of that happening in any other region, other than back in the day when we were cave dwellers and hunters and gatherers. And it's not that, I mean, that instance that you're sharing with me with the men in Villa Grande is very unique.
That's a problem. I am convinced that the solution is a mixage of factors.
Yes,
Okay?
I think that you said that it hasn't been shown where men live the same as women in any other region. And I think the fact that their habits, their social and marital habits contribute to this in some way, because it's very unique from other locations all over the world. I've never heard that before. And so I was just thinking that women definitely live longer than men, what, 6 to 7 years typically?
Usually you have 6 to 7 years more for women, and here you have less than 1 year. It's just quite similar.
So
And
why that is that women outlive men 6 to 7 years?
because there is a lot of literature on this, and a lot of factors are considering estrogen, are considering the stress, are considering a lot of things. You know that women stress more but die less. So you have the morbidity of women is higher, but the mortality is lower. Very old men are in good shape, but they are just a few. But the very old women are in intermediate shape and they are more. So it's something
Yes,
that
the men that are in the best shape have a woman next to them side by side.
that's another story. That's another story, is that to live longer for a man, you should stay married as long as possible. But for women to live longer, just be free from your husband as quick as possible. So you will.
I love it. Well, I mean, there's
No,
a
because
lot to this.
if you have to face widowhood for a woman when she is already 90, the shock is very important. But to be widow for women when she is 60 or 70, she is able to continue and to have a new life after. But for a man, if he became widow at 80, for example, he will have difficulty to survive alone, because everybody knows that men that are 80 or 90 cannot live alone.
they have to be supported. And
You
yeah.
avoided giving me what your theory is. So tell me why women outlive men by 6 to 7 years. Why?
My opinion, why, okay, you have to know that men and women are different. That's the first thing. Men and women are different, and the role of men and women may differ from society to society. And in our so-called postmodern society, women seems to be more ready to survive than men. They have better arguments. Seems so. Seems so. Do you know that there is an impact of the difference of age in marriage within the couple? It's better than the men will be older than the women in a couple to live longer. But if the man is older, which means that automatically the women will be will receive automatically 10 years of widowhood in her pocket. And
right.
we are
You're not going to tell me, I guess, that women are the stronger sex. That's never going to be admitted by a man. I can just tell you, that's never going to happen, which is fine. That's great. But I love to be able to hear and have a meeting of the minds with you. This has just been incredible. And I will definitely send you some of the information that I was looking at to, find some of my research to be able to kind of cross-reference. Because as I said, I really enjoy seeing where the common denominators are, and to see, if that could fit into the piece of the puzzle. And anyway, I just really appreciated everything. Is there anything that you would like to share as far as what is happening in the future for your work, or is it kind of stalled out because you're waiting on funding? What is currently
the only thing is that the research has to go on. We have to continue until we will find the truth with these exceptional populations. There is an hypothesis that these exceptional populations are only a transitional stage, which means that they will disappear or not. So we need some time to see if the new generation will survive as long as the previous one. What I would like to give you as message that is fully different from a scientific message. As soon as, all the time when I meet these people, they have really something coming from themselves that they deliver. And the most important message that they deliver is love. They have really the love in themselves. And since I have started to study, I have really the duty to disseminate also this love around, because they have really a way of living that is simple and full of love. And that's something that is more and more missing in our society. And it could be that this is the secret of longevity. I don't know.
It's definitely the secret to life. I can tell you that much, because if you live a life filled with gratitude and appreciation and feel blessed and feel love, then you have figured out how to be happy. And I think there's a lot to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's be happy. Let's be happy.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and having you on. And thanks everyone for joining us on the new 100. We'll see you next episode. And I've got the chills because I really value these interviews so much, and I hope that you all do too. So
thank you. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
I'm not backing down, 'cause the future is now. Not backing down, 'cause the future is now.